Over the weekend, I had the opportunity to talk about the North Dakota pipeline and the protests and stuff that have been going on. Um, and it was really cool because I was able to connect with Ruth Hopkins, who's a writer and activist. And she's actually from Standing Rock originally. And she had been out there at Standing Rock at the protest, but had just recently came back home and self-care before going back out. And so we had a really great conversation and kind of doing a backdrop of what was going on, as well as some of the legal issues, and then but we also talked about a few other issues that are going on in the Dakotas and in the just general region. But one of the things that I think that was so great from the conversation, and it was a podcast because I do this show with you guys Tuesday nights at 8 p.m., but I'm also starting to do 1 to 2 other podcast episodes a week through Podcast Revolution. And you can check all that out on my website, thewayofanoa.com. I'm also on Google Play, Stitcher, and iTunes. So these episodes from Tuesday nights, as long as the podcast episodes, are all there as well if you need to kind of catch it all in one place. But yeah, so we were talking and stuff, and one of the clearest message that came across is about self-determination, right? And how we need to define for ourselves, by ourselves, what we're going to do as a people and what we're going to tolerate to allow to happen in our communities. And one of the issues that struck me the most about the pipeline, now I haven't really talked about it at all because everyone else has already been talking about it. And I kind of don't like, repeating what everybody else is already saying, right? I like to try and highlight things and read isn't actually touched on elsewhere. But this was a great conversation. I was like, well, yeah, I definitely want to at least highlight a little bit with you guys because one of the things that when we were talking about self-determination and self-preservation too, right? Like making sure that our communities, our cultures, our way of life is protected. And particularly when you're talking about Native peoples, when you talk about First Peoples, you talk about especially here in the U.S., people have treaty rights, and we still to this day, 2016, have the United States violating treaty provisions that have been negotiated supposedly in good faith, in some cases almost hundreds of years ago. And we have a nation that predates our current government. What conversation do we have there with how people are respected, what follow through happens in terms of, and in this case, some of the major issues, include there was no consultation with the local tribe to begin with this project. This is treaty lands. There also has been no environmental assessments done with this project, right? There we were talking. What I found really interesting was, and I couldn't remember if it was near Fargo or Bismarck, but like near one of the other cities, the pipeline was supposed to go near there, and those people were like, no, it's going to mess up the drinking water. Nope, we don't want it. So it was moved. So if you're willing to move it because of fear of tainting the drinking water in one area, why would you place it someplace else? Like if there's a possibility it can mess up people's drinking water, and water is something I'm real like touchy about because of my own experiences with it. Like why would you think that it's okay? But they're people of color, right? They're Native people. They're it's a reservation. They could do whatever they want to do. Or so they thought, and I found it really interesting also when it came out that there wasn't even an easement. Like you can't just do stuff without having the proper documentation, the proper legal permissions to do so. And so that is like another red flag that they're just rushing, trying to hurry up and rush this through, and just be able to do what they want to do. And the fact that the Missouri River is actually when you look at the plains area, when you look at the center part of the country, that's actually a key waterway and water source, drinking source, for many people in the country. So yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem on so many different levels. Like it's a similar conversation in some ways when we talk about the concern of drinking water to when we talk about the fracking issue. I remember when I was in West Virginia, Morgantown, West Virginia, where West Virginia University is, there was a concern about that because where they were trying to frack at was like very, very close to the water table. And, if you slip, if you make a mistake, you've damaged the water source for an entire community of people. if not worse. And that's not even into the ecosystem issues too, right? So so this conversation I had with Ruth was really great, and like I said, definitely check it out. It's about 35 minutes or so. But we talked about, like I said, solidarity as well across groups. I just saw a tweet either yesterday or the day before that Black Lives Matters activists had actually arrived at Standing Rock. I'm not sure if they're still there, like when that picture was from, but people are going out there and standing in solidarity because this is an issue that we should all be concerned about because this is another form of systemic racism that is occurring in the United States. I mean, this is actually a prime example of environmental racism, right? Like you have a group of people who are so marginalized and cut off that, the government and this corporation are thinking they can do whatever they want to do without any type of concern or accountability. And that's an issue. And that's deeply rooted in racist underpinnings in this country, particularly when you're talking about with Native Americans and this notion of treaty rights. Well, not even notion. It's a legal existence, and we were talking about another case that is, I guess, going to be coming up soon. And if anyone's interested in actually donating or supporting, let me back up for a second with Standing Rock. I believe it's standingrock.org is the website. So the official reservation website, Standing Rock. You can go there. There's a PayPal donation button, I believe, in like the top right corner of the page. Because I know that if people can't actually go to help, and it's very peaceful. Ruth and I were talking. She's also been a judge. She was just saying, like, it's very peaceful. There's been no crime. Like, everything has been going very well. And the local media has so manipulated the narrative, right? They even at one point said that they had pipe bombs. She was like, no, that's silly. We have like our ceremonial pipes, on site. No one had a pipe bomb. That's stupid. So it's been really, I mean, it's terse. It's a terse situation, but ideally, we were talking like, best outcome is that the injunction, because there's a district court case that's pending right now. Ideally, the injunction will be approved, and the company will be forced to then go back and do the environmental impact statements that they are the proper assessments that they're trying to skirt around through various loopholes. And that's a whole nother conversation with the various loopholes that corporations exploit within, whether it's various regulations promulgated by the EPA or other agencies, Army Corps engineers. And you'll have multiple federal agencies involved in situations because if this actually ends up invoking anything under the Safe Drinking Water Act, that's promulgated by the EPA. But then you have various provisions that involve the Army Corps engineers. So you have multiple agencies, kind of coordinating, and that also can be a headache in terms of community activism and outreach as well. I remember from West Virginia watching the CDC and the EPA try to coordinate and communicate was a nightmare. And then if you have local people who do not have the best interests of that community at heart, as the actual coordinator between the different parties, it can potentially be a disaster. So there are many opportunities and reasons for why we need to get up to date on the issues that are affecting our communities and be that voice that's necessary. If there isn't anyone else, I know it's hard sometimes to be the one to put yourself out there, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, right?